Now, respecting religious faith or encouraging discrimination. Human rights campaigners are protesting against the body that represents the country's universities after it said men and women could be segregated in certain situations. But the guidance from UK universities has infuriated some students, as our culture and digital editor Paul Mason now reports.
This was the moment one academic snapped.
Okay, either you quit the segregation or I'm out of here. I was promised it wouldn't be segregated. No.
Professor Lawrence Krauss had come to debate Islam versus atheism, but not in front of a segregated audience. The clash dramatised a problem that's been quietly building on campuses. Islamist students insisting on meetings that separate men and women. Now, the body that represents universities has ruled, in certain circumstances, the Muslim right to segregate trumps women's right to sit where they want. So tonight, protesters in London likened that to apartheid, saying colleges are putting fees from Middle Eastern students above rights for all.
They're relying more and more on wealthy international students, and that means they don't care about things like human rights. It is reduced to money.
In a highly convoluted document, Universities UK issued guidelines that said Muslim students can invite an external speaker to any British university and impose segregation between men and women. Others can insist on having a non-segregated area, but not if that curtails the freedom of speech of the Muslim students. Their religious freedom comes above the freedom of other people to sit where they like. But they can only segregate side by side, not front to back.
Just say no.
But campaigners want all segregation stopped. They say it's changing the atmosphere on campus.
We do get contacted by students who say they wanted to oppose it but felt threatened and not able to do so. And what this sort of segregation does is bring a whole climate of fear, intimidation, and one that says if you oppose it, you're violating people's right to believe.
The Muslim group that organised the UCL meeting last March was thrown off campus. Today, its spokesperson insisted all they want is choice.
If somebody insisted on sitting in a particular gender-only section, by way of protest or by way of making an obnoxious point, then we would not stop the meeting, but we would actually be obliged to ask that person to sit in the next section.
What gives you the right to bring this kind of medieval religious view into universities that are based on logic and learning?
Well, you know what? It's not actually a medieval religious view. This is actually something which is probably the most liberal and progressive piece of legislation that is enshrined in the Equality Act 2010, where we have to provide for those people, they call it providing access.
Universities UK said their guidance is not prescriptive, mainly hypothetical, and leaves colleges open to reject segregation on grounds other than free speech.
Well, with me now in Westminster, Omar Ali, President of the Federation of Student Islamic Societies, and here in the studio, the journalist Yasmin Alabai-Brown, who was at today's protest. Yasmin, you wrote a couple of days ago that this was a disaster for feminism, for university life, for modernism, for progressive ideals, and for Muslims most of all. I mean, I get your drift, but are you overreacting just a little bit?
No, I'm not. In fact, I think our society and our institutions have been underreacting to the growth of something, as was said by someone in your package, a rise of Islamicism, which has nothing to do with Islam. Let me tell your viewers, there are only 5 fundamental absolutes in my religion. Beyond that, it is all additions, accretions, things added on, but usually by men and by supplicant women, and a variety of beliefs. And I think that universities in particular, and also our other institutions, have been underreacting and falling over.
Omar Ali, this is all an underreaction.
Well, I think it's very important to approach this in a very balanced way. At FOSIS, the organisation which I represent, we represent over 115,000 Muslim students. And obviously this is a key issue which is being debated at the moment. Segregation is obviously it's quite an emotional use of the language anyway. I think what we have here is we have democratically elected religious societies, and it's not just Islamic societies actually, religious societies who decide and choose to have organized separate seating for male and females, and that's simply an extension of faith. It's something which has existed. Sorry
to interrupt, but let me just get Yasmin to respond to those points. Yasmin.
This is university. It's not a mosque. It's not a temple. You can do what you want in your mosques and temples. You do not have the right. And actually, this is not true, because the meetings I know of and have written about are nothing to do with religion, but are by lectures by fundamentalists who are telling women to get out of the public space.
Ali?
Yeah, no. Well, if anyone is telling women to get out of the public space, that's out of order. But I think we need to just bring it. We need to bring this we need to focus a bit here. This type of separate seating is something which has been going on for millennia in synagogues and churches and mosques, and indeed it's something which happens in many public institutions.
Let me just come in there. That doesn't make it right, because this is a public place. The majority of the British public, and actually many Muslims, don't want segregation.
Okay, well, here's the thing. We have something which we need to, very much celebrate in our society, which is the fact that we have the freedom. We have freedom of expression. We have freedom to manifest our religion. If people don't want to segregate, that's totally fine. If people would like to, and they think that it's an act of their faith, and very clearly, this is not something which university students are being forced into. These are democratically elected Islamic societies who serve a group of students on campus in a particular context.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. You are using democracy. You are using freedom. You're using the great rights we now have to completely destroy those very rights and choices. You can do what you like in mosque. People can do what they like in synagogues. This is a university. You are corrupting our universities. You are corrupting our Islam. You have no right to do that.
Okay, I think we live in a liberal society. The concept that we have to impose, and we tell people that they're ruining democracy or ruining freedom, and we're trying to, it's very illiberal actually to try to impose your views. Now, I accept that people may hold different views, and I think that's fantastic, and I think it's fine for people to hold different views.
Let me ask you this: would you sit next to a woman yourself?
I sit next to women all the time. I sat next to a woman on the train up here, and in many Islamic society events indeed as well. In fact, different Islamic societies would choose a different course of action. And the other
Why don't you set up your own universities? I'll tell you what. Don't use our taxes to impose these Saudi Arabian practices. Open your own universities with your own money. Do what you like. Do not change our institutions.
Yasmin, let me ask you one thing. You're selecting this particular row, but what about the Orthodox synagogues, the Sikh temples? There's segregation there. Why not take issue with them too?
Well, religious places and one's faith as practiced in the privacy of your communities is fine, okay? But even there are great movements going on. In my mosque, for example, the community I come from, which quite a lot of fanatics say are not properly Islamic, we pray together. Women lead the prayers and men lead the prayers. I have no problems with places of religion. I have no problems with the home. I have no problems with people's inner lives and inner homes. This is a state institution.
Omar, let me put that point to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I find it kind of, it's almost very confusing to say that in one part of society it's acceptable, and in another part of society people's rights to manifest their religion need to be kind of
But answer the point about the public place.
Well, it is a public place, but here's the thing, and different societies on campuses are set up for different reasons. If a religious society is set up to cater for the religious needs of students on campus, why shouldn't they? And I think, and one of the important points is this. I think that this is almost being projected in almost something which is discriminatory against women, and I think a lot of women would actually find that quite insulting. For example, if you can let me finish, because I did let you finish.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. We have run out of time completely. I'm very sorry about that. Omar Ali, Yasmin Alibi Brown, thank you very much for joining us.